I realized that when I sobered up, I really had to step back alone and look at myself. And what I had done through my 20, probably 15, 20 years of drinking, if I had to be honest, 20 years, is that I had self-inflicted myself with so much more trauma than was ever there in the first place. But I realized that what alcohol gave me was the ability to run, hide, avoid, escape. All of those were the exact same reaction that my nervous system had when I was 3 years old, when both parents shot out of my life, right? They became bad characters, and I lived with a contamination story. Well, you drink if you had my parents. You drink if you had my upbringing. I was emotionally abused. All these other stories that I was telling myself, I had to go back and look at Little Crow and say, no, I'm not carrying shame and guilt I'm not carrying that. What that is was a response that I had, that I took all of that and as a means of survival. And at the same time, those were the very, very parts of me that were alive, that were creative, that were full of awe, that were full of wonder and mystery. And I left all of those behind. And from that time forward, it just becomes pretty much, how do I get out of it? So that is where in my sobriety, I had to go back and look at the characters, really look at them and say, all right. And this also, interestingly enough, was, if not an outright way of forgiveness, it gave me a reframe of understanding, because I could see the characters not as demonic. Mom and dad were doing the best they could. They were children themselves. So I had to place myself into the characters, the people, the places, shoes, right? And going back to last week's podcast and what Alan was talking about, that rule that everybody is doing the best they can with what they have and what they know. And so there was no ill intent in the past. What I was framing as shame and guilt was simply my response mechanism to make sense of it, to go forward. So by doing that shadow work, I could untether myself from the emotional charge it held over me, and it landed me with the ability to reframe it and then pull myself out of victimhood and say, all right, this is really what happened. And this is who I am in good measure as a result of that.